Hi there. We're live. It's Thursday night, 5 o'clock, and welcome to the Real Question Time. I'm joined tonight by Mick Stott, veteran and psychologist, and I'm also joined by Dr. Zach Cox. Hi, Zach. How you doing, mate?
Hi. How's it going?
I'm good. It's nice to see you in the physical form. We've had a lot of phone conversations lately, haven't we?
Yeah.
So welcome aboard, everyone. Apologies. Normally we're on a Wednesday night. We've had a couple of weeks without being on, and obviously tonight is early doors on Thursday. But please bear with us. We thought it was important that we communicated some information to everybody about things that are going on in the background, and also things relative to this Saturday. So from next week, every Wednesday, we will be back on board. You'll be able to hook up on wakeupuk.net and also on the UK Freedom Alliance. And I believe this is the first time that this program is going out live on UK Freedom Alliance or UKFA. Welcome along, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me tonight. I'm going to start off. Obviously, there's quite a lot going on in the news this week, but to people in our community, obviously most of what's being spoken about is what's happening this Saturday. You may hopefully you're all aware, on the 20th of March, so the last big march and protest that happened on Saturday, the 20th of March in London. Amongst the huge turnout, which was an impressive turnout, I have to admit, there were various other things that happened that day. One of those things that happened was initiated by a lot of hard work from people in the background who put together a mass criminal complaint. And it was Mick Stott that's joined me tonight, along with John Miller, who actually put that complaint over to the police. So I'm going to ask Mick Stott just to give us a little recap on what happened on Saturday, the 20th of March, and how that's relevant to what's happening this Saturday and how you can get involved. Because in the background, as usual, we've had quite a lot of problems with the authorities that be doing everything they can to take things down on our site. We take it as a compliment because they seem to be going all guns blazing, trying to take everything down that we do and all the warnings that go with it. But without further ado, I'm going to put you over to Mick Stott, and Mick can give us some background about what's happened and where we're going this Saturday. Over to you, Mick.
Yeah, so we arrived nice and early in London, and there wasn't many people on the streets, which is pretty contrary to the way you would expect it if you'd seen London before. And what we did was I went in the police station with John, and we issued a criminal complaint with 815 pages of supporting evidence, much to the dismay of the receptionist. And equally, when we got in with the PC, they made us wait about an hour, and we knew they were going to do that anyway. They didn't want to make it easy, to be fair. But I actually learned a lot even when I was sat in there, because I saw a number of plainclothes people to and froing, and some of them even had goggles on, which told me that they were basically provocateurs dressed in civilian clothes, but that was an aside. And so we went in, I issued the complaint, and then we waited for a response from the PC. We got a log number, and we were told that he would sift through it all. The response we got actually was pretty inadequate, and what he tried to do was he tried to pass us off to an MP, to our local MP. Now, of course, people would understand that MPs do not have the capacity or functionality to conduct a criminal complaint. And the criminal complaint, because it happened in the Borough of Westminster, had to be delivered in the Borough of Westminster, and that's what we did. So I've now asked PC Banda to answer a number of questions. And what I'm going to do this Saturday is I'm going to pop into the police station beforehand with the questions to get answers to those specific questions, because essentially what they're trying to do is just fob us off. Now, what also happened as a result of us delivering our criminal complaint is clearly a number of people got motivated to deliver their own criminal complaints, and we pretty much know that PC Banda got in excess of 30,000 individual criminal complaints delivered to Charing Cross police station, even to the point where he sent me an email and asked me to ask all my followers to stop sending them. I did remind him that I didn't have any followers. I've never been followed in my life, even though I spent 30 years in the military. I think I've only ever been followed out of curiosity. So we do know that it touched the spot. And in reality, the criminal complaint is quite a powerful document that we can use with anyone that is conducting themselves criminally. That is, and the criminal complaint was really about misconduct in office, the damage that's happened to me as an individual as a result of the decisions that have been made by those people in office in the Westminster constituency. So essentially that's where we're at. We're going to have a little catch up on Saturday to see where he's at. I thought I was going to get handcuffed the last time I was there. They did try to dance a little bit and try to sort of catch me out with a few questions, but clearly I did say that I'd arrived on a banana boat, but I was the captain. Yeah. So they stopped after that point. So that's where we're at, Justin. That's where we're at, mate. And we will take up the mantle as from Saturday.
Yeah, brilliant. For people, tuning in for the first time, obviously we've been doing this for a few weeks, but not for the last couple. So we're often joined by very eminent people within our world. Professor Doris Cahill is on the show quite often. John Smith, who founded the Common Law Courts. Mark Oakford, who's now turning into one of the leading statisticians in this country. John Hamer, who's a historian and a novelist. So, tune in every week, because from next Wednesday, these people will all be talking. We're hoping to get some top economists on the program as well as political analysts. So we're doing a lot, with all of these sides. And if you've been looking at stuff that we've put on up in the last few days, trying to give people some history into where this is all coming from, what we refer to as a political virus. It's well over a decade now that these people have been working on this. It goes back to 2008 that I can show clearly in terms of people appearing in Davos and the World Economic Forum and where this has gone in 2010, Rockefeller, lockstep, all the way through. So what these guys are doing at the moment, which is history repeating itself in many ways. The economic policy that Klaus Schwab actually follows is called stakeholderism. And the idea was originally thought up by political advisors to Adolf Hitler in the 1930s. So, once again, history is repeating itself because Schwab is actually a natural-born German, and WF is in Switzerland, and there's been a nefarious relationship between those two countries since before the Second World War, which is why Switzerland now has so much money, because they basically helped Hitler's people hoard war treasures and so forth. So the Swiss banks being a various group, and now we have the various other bodies like WHO, the United Nations. All these people are based in Switzerland, so have a little look into that. There's actually a very ironic thing, because Switzerland is a country which doesn't adhere to human rights. It never signed the Human Rights Charter, didn't even sign the Torture Charter, actually. And yet the United Nations chose to base their Human Rights Department there. So a country with no human rights kind of gives you some insight into where some of these people are going and who they are. Also in the background, so we've tried to bring people up to speed with some history over the last few weeks about what's going on, how we're the kidology of the last 50 years or more, with people being, this sort of divide and conquer of this thing of left and right. Anybody who's still talking about left and right clearly is not on the same page as what's going on at the moment. We now live in a totalitarian state. There is no left and right where that's concerned. So I was really pleased when we were in London on 20th of March with the diversity of not just religious diversity, creed, colour, but also the age gap of there were people that were 16 years old that I was walking along with, to people 80 years old, men, women, all walks of life, and that's the first time I've seen that. I've seen lots of protests in London over the years. That's the first time I have seen people putting all of these things to one side, people throwing out the left wing, right wing, all that crap. No, where things are concerned now, there is no left and right. There's only right and wrong. So anyone that's still touting out these lines that are built to divide and conquer, to separate the 99%, there's the 1% are still playing the public. In the background, ladies and gentlemen, while this has been going on, so many people in the medical professional and other professionals have been speaking out. And one of my guests tonight, Dr. Zach Cox, is amongst those people. And these are the people that people should be standing on their doorstep applauding, in my opinion, because these are the people who've lost their jobs, who had the gumption to stand up, the moral conscience. Everybody's born with a moral compass. This is where the Nuremberg codes come in. From after the Second World War, German soldiers saying, it was only following orders. Well, it doesn't really wash, and that's what happened in Nuremberg. So for me, a lot of the doctors and nurses that aren't speaking out or are going along with things, my respect lies with people like Dr. Zach Cox. And I'd like to ask Zach, Zach, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is a founding member of the World Freedom Alliance. He's also a member of the UK Freedom Alliance. I'd like to get Zach just very briefly to give us some history on yourself, Zach, how you've come about this, and also, how yourselves and your colleagues and many people that have spoken out in the medical professional, just how you've been treated, the pariah type thing that's gone on with this, because for me, you should be applauded. So please give us some insight, mate.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me here. It's great to see both of you. You're so right. The doctors, by and large, are just going along with things. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of them are always just going to buy into whatever they're told. But a couple of colleagues of mine who are friends from university basically disowned me at the start of this lockdown, and now they've come out and said, well, actually, I think Zach's right. There is something strange going on here. This is not a real pandemic. This is not a correct reaction to a pandemic. Even if it was a pandemic, why would you destroy society? Why would you throw society away? And I would ask people who are sort of sitting on the fence to ask themselves a question. Why would doctors and scientists and lawyers, for that matter, come out to Trafalgar Square and risk their livelihoods, risk their jobs by speaking out? I've never protested for in my life, I don't think. And here we are, like all these doctors and nurses and scientists and dentists, that they're basically putting their livelihood on the line, trying to protect the public. And ask yourself why. Just why would we do that? We're not here for fame and glory. We're certainly not getting paid for it. So I think when there's a growing body of doctors and dentists and scientists, etc., and nurses who are just going, well, this is strange, and it's going on a bit too long, and they're not quite sure what's going on. So I'd ask them to, take a look at the UK Medical Freedom Alliance website. It's absolutely bang on the money for the science. It's very scientific, very straight-laced. Look at the World Doctors Alliance website, because that's got a bit more outspoken. So we started World Doctors Alliance along with Professor Dolores Cahill and Andy Kaufman, and of course Dr. Adil, who I believe has had a second or third hearing today at the General Medical Council. So
do we know Zach?
I don't. No, I don't. I'll drop him a line later. But I mean, that man was so brave, so courageous to speak out. I mean, you could say that he was a bit too gung-ho to speak out, but I think he's got the courage and the balls to speak out, and I applaud him for doing that, because there's not enough doctors standing up right now. So
just to give our viewers some background here, Zach. Dr. Mohammed Adil.
Oh, you've frozen, Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give some background. Mohammed Adil, surgeon, 30 years.
Was the Surgeon General, the lower end of the medical profession here. We're talking Dolores Cahill. Professor, they don't stand to gain a lot. They're already at the top of their profession. They're already lauded, eminent people that now find themselves losing their job and then come under personal attack. Where the powers that be start going after their reputation, try and make out, that they're in some way mentally unstable, which is, I've watched this happen for a long, long time now with various other quarters. It's a tried and tested ploy, and then they start going after your wages, your pensions, and things like this. People don't understand this. The UK Freedom Alliance and the World Freedom Alliance, we've been working behind the scenes to try and help the doctors by with lawyers. A lot of lawyers. I'd like to thank all the lawyers that are coming forward, by the way, because without what you're doing, without you giving your time and your knowledge, we wouldn't be able to try and help some of the doctors and nurses and medical professionals that we're helping in the background. And the likes of Dr. Zach Cox are giving confidence to other medical professionals to come out and speak. And this Saturday, I'm led to believe that there's going to be thousands of doctors and nurses will be coming out on the streets, and that's the first. As well as Mick Stott is going to give us some information here, as well as a lot of the veterans are now getting behind this. I don't know how many of our viewers saw 3 weeks ago, it was the 20th of March in Holland, where the veterans came out to protect the public in case the police started to be overzealous, as has been the case sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And perhaps, Mick, you could give us some background on the initiative that you and others have started for the Guardian 300, I think it's called.
Yeah, I've created a group called the Guardians 300. It's an idea that basically what we want is we only want 300 people to stand, but naturally when you only ask for 300, you always end up with more. We started with the men first, and we've certainly had, I had in excess of 800, 900 emails within a week. A big percentage of those were police and veterans, actually. A lot of the veterans are now beginning to wake up, and they've been looking for a while. So it won't surprise me if we don't have quite a few veterans there on Saturday. Of course, I'm a great believer that you under-promise and over-deliver. So I know for one thing, I will definitely be there on Saturday wearing my beret. And any veterans out there that are questioning this situation, you can find us on Guardians 300 discussion. The group is designed basically to act as a focal point for anyone that wants to be trained as a common law constable. It's our intention to train more common law constables in the next 6 months than exist as a police force, and to amalgamate us with the police force, to say we're just going to remind you of what you should be doing, or haven't been told what you should be doing, and we want the police to police, but we want them to do that as constables. We're taking things right back to basics. We're saying, right, let's remind you of our constitution, because in reality, those are our basics. And police were originally constables that were from the people for the people, and they were paid by the people to keep them safe. I think a lot of them have forgotten that, or they haven't been taught that, because certainly when I chat to the police, they don't understand their oath, and they certainly don't understand the difference between a constable and a police officer. And coincidentally, if you look at the history of this, the constabulary changed when we joined the European market to police force. And the two meanings are completely different. So no surprises there. So the Guardians 300 is a focal point. We're going to stand. It'll be the first time that we stand on Saturday. We've only been up for about a week. We're already getting lots and lots of more people interested in us. We want men and women. We have a cap that we want people to wear with Guardians 300 written on it, so that we know who is who. And our intention on Saturday is to help protect a lot of the nurses that are very, 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 very nervous about protesting, because they know the implications of this professionally. And so we intend to assist those groups as much as we can. But I've got a feeling there's going to be that many people there on Saturday, we're going to be left alone.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. I think, conservative estimates of 100,000 last time, maybe more, maybe 200,000. I know that.
Yeah.
As well as you know, Mick, we were walking along front of that march with plenty of others. We weren't the organisers, but I know that I stopped to use the facilities in the Pall Mall, and I came and stood outside afterwards, and it took 3/4 of an hour for the crowd to walk by.
Yeah.
Now, and that was about 10 people in width, in breadth, and if you think that people tend to walk at 15 miles, a mile every 15 minutes, then you're talking about a 3-mile long crowd.
Yeah.
And as we all know, we all watch the mainstream media try and make out it was. I think the BBC said 400 people. You know, so I don't know if they went. If that was school of maths or.
Yeah.
But it certainly didn't match what I was looking at. You know, I'd love to see the footage from some of the people that were standing on the bridges on the embankment when people walked through.
Yeah,
so,
we saw a little bit of that, but and it was huge. And the thing is, I think we're going to have more than. I think we're going to have quite a number of people standing even with the Guardians 300. You know, I'm being told about loads that are coming down from Glasgow. Women, we'll never have any shortage of women. Our women are warriors. We're just going to get more men out that are prepared to stand strong and peacefully. We're not going to win this with aggression, Justin. You know, we're going to win this with sheer numbers on the ground, peace and strength, and the strength bit is important.
Yeah, I think there's going to be big numbers on Saturday. I think, you know, the likelihood is that anyone that was there on 20th of March is likely to have told everyone else, you know, all their friends, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're well over 250,000, 500,000.
Yeah,
who knows?
Wouldn't surprise me either.
No. Also, getting back to Zach, I mean, Zach, you know, we're being told, obviously in the background, we know quite a lot of people from other groups and different, you know, eminent people within the community, that there's a lot of doctors coming and a lot of nurses coming. And I believe that many of them are going to come in uniform. When I see uniform, you know, in their work clothes, as it were. And I think the people will respond to that. You know, I think that everyone will applaud that. That more and more, you know, doctors and nurses are coming out in the streets. As Mick was saying, police officers. You know, we saw plenty of police officers interviewed on the last march. Hopefully, everyone's going to get behind that. Zach, is that something that's being spoke about in your quarters?
Yeah, very much so. And I'm really strong. Any healthcare professionals out there, please come. You know, you will be well protected. I've spoken to lawyers, and they say you have the absolute right to protest. All they suggest is if you have your NHS trust on your uniform to cover it over. That's the only thing they suggest to cover over, because your trust might accuse you of bringing the trust into disrepute. Otherwise, apart from that, you're perfectly at liberty to do what the hell you want. It's still a free country, and I would encourage you so strongly to come. I've spoken to doctors who are umming and ahhing, and I'm saying, this is the walk. This is the protest that you must be at. This is going to be the biggest one. It's going to be the best one, and you must come. So please, I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart, please come, because it's so vital right now to stand up right now. Okay, so please come. You will be protected, I promise that.
Thanks, Zach. I'd just like to speak briefly about some of the things that we're trying to do in the background, in terms of, as Zach well knows, what we're trying to do with the legal experts to help people in the medical profession who've been unfairly dismissed. The various, it touches on so many different parts of law, whether it's employment law, contract law, you know, the whole different genres of law that we're having to deal with in certain cases where those things cross over. We will be in the future, it isn't something that any of us have done before, but we will be in the future, plans afoot setting up CICs, which is a not-for-profit company, where we will be looking to try and take donations, and they will only be for fighting legal cases in representation of our medical professionals, that are the people that we should be getting behind, the people who've got the balls, if you like, pardon my vernacular for the ladies, but the people who've got the gumption to stand up and speak out about, you know, what they perceive and what is they're seeing in everyday life in their workplace of what's going on. with curiosity, it's the first time tonight I've ever been able to see some of the comments that we get on the Wake Up UK and so forth. So I'm just going to take a couple of these because it hasn't happened before, so it's the first. But I've got Charles Spencer. Have you seen the Venetian has put into International Criminal Court at The Hague a crimes against humanity case against the UK government? Now, I'm aware most of our viewers may well be aware Michael Venetia, as well as is an expert on common law, as well as John Smith and Graham, various other people that are all, some of them are differ slightly in their take on it, but you know, they're all, in my opinion, they're all to be commended for the work they do in the background and a lot of the stuff that they're doing to try and make people aware, as what we set out to do, to make people aware of their rights. And some of this stuff is something that myself and Mick wanted to talk on, to touch on, with regards to Saturday and also historical things. You know, we've been trying to represent a few of the people who've been arrested, you know, for standing in the park and things like this. Various people, that cases that I think people will know about. That we're trying to help out people standing up for their rights, which is, you know, hopefully what we're all about. Also knowing your rights. So there's a lot of this stuff going on that people don't quite understand, you know, in terms of when the police are trying to move you on, what your rights are. And Mick, are you all right to touch on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the police have two models. Yeah, the police have two models. One of them is the 4Es. They're supposed to engage with, they're supposed to explain what they want. But in reality, you don't have to engage with them. Because if you are walking peacefully, you are not either creating damage against any property or not harming any other person. There is no law that says that you must engage with a police officer. And in reality, a constable would never do that. So as long as you are literally doing everything peacefully, you don't even need to explain anything that you're doing, and they have no right to ask you, by the way. So equally, don't engage. But even if they do, if they have reason to believe that something's going on, they must engage, they must explain, they must encourage before they enforce. What we are seeing is as enforcement. Now, if you were walking down the street and someone came and hit you with a baton, you would be entitled to defend yourself by law. Yeah. Especially if you are walking along peacefully. We will be walking along peacefully. There is no reason why the police should stand in front of us, block us, stop us, kettle us, and that is not, it's unlawful. And police officers that follow unlawful orders become agents. So there is a difference between a lawful order and an unlawful order, and there has to be a crime being committed. Now, ultimately, if a police officer starts to beat you, you have every right to stop that police officer from beating you. And, you know, I would never condone strikes. I would never condone violence. But what I would say is, why would you allow anyone to beat you? So what we're saying to people is, remember, you're not doing anything unlawful by defending yourself. And you can even take this to the point where if you're convinced that someone is going to aggress you at that level, you are entitled to make a preemptive strike to stop yourself from being hurt. Remember, police are not above the law. They're supposed to be there to protect you. And they're supposed to be there to de-escalate any potential crime. And they're supposed to use these two models, the model of the 4Es and the conflict management model. And if they're not applying that model, they're acting unlawfully. It's as simple as that. It's worth remembering that the acts, the statutes and the legislations that are put in place, they don't override your freedoms. Your laws, your freedoms override them. So what is the message here? The message is be peaceful, be lawful. And if we get to a point where we need to keep moving, that's what we're going to do. And if we get to a point where people start to beat us for no apparent reason, we're going to stop them from beating us, but we're going to do that peacefully. If they decide to arrest people that are acting lawfully with us, we will take that person back because that person won't have done anything wrong. However, if you're the type of person that likes to get drunk and have a fight, we're not the group for you on Saturday. Go somewhere else and do all of that. If you're a police provocateur that's in the crowd, that's going to create that as well, we will host you. We've seen you before. We know a lot of who you are and what you look like. And equally, if you're a crisis actor that's trying to get a similar situation go on, we also know who they are. And you're pretty obvious. We will never do anything other than protest peacefully. It's our right and it's our basic freedom. So that's what we're there to do, Justin, essentially.
Yeah. One of the other things that people should be doing, if you're pulled over by the police and you haven't done anything wrong, ask to see some ID. Ask to see the warrant card. Okay? Because if a police constable doesn't identify themselves to you, there's something you're perfectly entitled to wonder whether they are a police constable in the first place. But you know, as we all know, you often see a lot of police officers who attend these events who haven't got any numbers on their lapels. You know, that in itself we know isn't right, is it? You know.
No, and the thing is, you're right, Justin. You can ask to see the warrant card, and they're duty bound to give you that. By the way, failure to do that is a criminal offence. So it's a serious offence, and of course, the person in the power curve, the person with the power curve in any communication is the one asking the questions. That's why they ask questions. So if you never answer any of their questions, and if actually you ask them questions like, "Where is your warrant card? What law have I broken, please?" and you record that, Justin, so that when this comes as evidence, they have to tell you what law you are breaking. And of course, then they only quote statutes or acts or legislation. And of course, you know, when you get this on video, this is your defense. So no one can say, well, I didn't say this or I didn't say that. Because a lot of these things have a habit of dying out the moment they get you into the police station. And they hold you there just to scare people. They arrest people just to scare people, so that you then believe, oh, well, I might get arrested. So it's a scare tactic more than anything. If you go into the world of asking questions, you give yourself the power curve in that exchange.
Mm-hmm. With regards to Saturday, obviously, as you said, we're expecting to see a lot of veterans there. We're expecting to see a lot of doctors and nurses, and hopefully the public will come out and support those members of doctors and nurses and the veterans and people who've actually, you know, through work given of themselves to this country and to the people, you know, in doing what they do for work. And hopefully the British public will come out and support them in numbers, because I believe they should be. You know, and I believe that there are various groups meeting, the ones that we know of in Hyde Park and Speaker's Corner. But as Mick has said earlier, no one's advocating violence. It's, you know, the turnout, peaceful protest, people. Look out for people like that. If you've got people that are trying to cause trouble, then point them out to people, you know, because as Mick rightly said, quite often they're Asian provocateurs, or just some idiot who's had too much drink. That isn't what we want. That isn't what we're advocating. We want people to turn out in numbers and just say we've had enough. And you know, the weight of numbers, actions speak louder than words, but the weight of numbers is something that I think as a shock tactic. And hopefully the visual of what we're hoping to see on Saturday, with people in uniforms and that coming out, it was a powerful visual in Holland a few weeks ago, to see the veterans turn out, you know, and protect the people, and hopefully that will be the case this Saturday. Zach, in terms of where we are with what's going on, you know, with the medical profession, do you see that now that you know, as you said, a lot more people are starting to question things from initially, what are you talking about, to now where people that were previously perhaps weren't believers, weren't awake, are now waking up and questioning this. You know, how much of that is now going on, Zach?
Yeah, a lot. It's really encouraging. More and more people are starting to go, "Uh-oh, this is weird." I mean, a good friend of mine who again was sat on the fence, lives in Ireland. He said, "You know, this is just, can I swear, it's just feckin' communism." That's what he said. He's a dentist out in Ireland, but you know, up until a few weeks ago, he sat on the fence. Now he sees it. It says curfews, roadblocks. Come on, what on earth has that got to do with a virus? It's nothing to do with virus. Nothing whatsoever. Mick, can I just say a massive, great thank you to you for that criminal case that you've put together? That is genius. Thank you for doing that. Absolutely fantastic. And thank you for everything you're doing, mate. Just thank you.
Yeah, it's going
May
to
the force be with
about
you.
action, Zach. It's going to be about action, you know. And a guy, you know, the guy that wrote that out, Mark Sexton, you know, he put a lot of work in that. And you know, I mean, of course, we had to deliver it, and it takes someone to to go to the blister end of that, and they tried their best to sort of dance. I mean, PC Banda was dancing like Fred Astaire for about 5 minutes, trying to ask me questions.
There's a lot of other people that did a lot of work on that as well.
Yeah.
Michelle and Vince and Mark. I don't know they are. I never like to. I don't actually like to say people's names because I don't know whether they want me to or not.
Well, and you know, Justin, we've got to remember, right, that none of this can be about any one individual. I think, you know, this is about momentum now, and it's about if the sum of the parts is greater than any one whole, it will work. If it becomes about one individual, it's doomed.
Yeah,
definitely. It is about all the groups coming together and working together.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we are one big happy family of humanity. We're not. We're not divided by race, religion, and anything. We are just one big family.
And you know, Zach, we saw that with the last one. I could not believe how it was just a cultural flipping mishmash. You know what I mean? Every Uncle Tom Cobley and all were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but just this
Loads
week,
of Southern Shandy swillers.
You let some Southerners in as well, did you?
Yeah, well, let the old Southern Shandy swillers
out. I have to say, this week my patients have surprised. They've really shocked me. You know, I've had women in their 80s who are saying they're coming. You know, right down to like 18-year-olds, right up to into their 80s. They're all coming.
All good.
Yeah, it was a great thing. I think for the first time that people are starting to throw away, you know, all of these divisive things from the part. You know, left and right. It's not left and right. It's right and wrong. You know, and at the end of the day, it's one race, the human race, because it's the human race that these people are trying to basically eradicate.
Well, I can't speak for any other country. I can't speak for any other country, Justin, but I can say this, right? It's a complete smokescreen to believe we have Labour and Conservative.
Of course.
Because they both do the same thing, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a massive
two sides of the same coin, Mick. It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
You know, that they all dance for the same paymaster.
Yeah.
You know, go back to 2019, November 2019, over 400 MPs voted against their own electorate. And that was cross-party. Yeah, it was about Brexit and Remain and so forth. But the writing was on the wall then that, hang on a minute, these are people that voted for you. Why aren't, you know, you're supposed to work for them? So in terms of, you know, it was there for everyone to see. This is going on now. Anyone that, you know, if you do your research, you know, ladies and gentlemen, look up the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab started it 50 years ago this year under another, but it's now that, the WEF. Don't take my word for it. Take his word for it. This is the man who basically all of the political leaders attend his forums in Davos every year. Mostly every January, you know, but whether it's Theresa May, different prime ministers, you know, these people all get together once a year, and this has been happening for decades now. And the likes of Bill Gates have been speaking there since at least 2008. Your Rockefellers, your Rothschilds, you know. I get some people go, "Oh, what? All these people to get," you know? Yes, it happens every year, you know. And the basic principle of what Schwab is doing, which is called stakeholderism, it's an economic theory that doesn't work. It's been proven not to work in the past. And if you don't take my word for it, listen to what Schwab's saying. Schwab is basically saying that, well, his own words were, by 2030, nobody will own anything. People watching businesses going under, this is part of what they're doing. You know, this is part of a political virus that we refer to. This is planned, you know, this isn't by accident. People sit there and look at Boris Johnson going, oh, he's a buffoon, and is he getting it wrong? They're not getting it wrong. This is a plan. This has been, you know, over a decade in the making.
Yeah, it's confusing for a reason. It's confusing for a reason because when people are confused, they become highly suggestible. You know, this is a PSYOP strategy by 77 Brigade. It is run by the British Army, unfortunately, and clearly, I don't believe that everyone knows what's happening. I believe that there's an awful lot of order followers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of this now, for what we see, what's going on in front of our eyes, its basic principle is over 50 years ago, the CIA thought up a program which is called Operation Mockingbird, and that all the brains behind that is that how to use the media and their words in inverted commas to condition the public. That's what we're seeing now. This is over 50 years ago. This is what these people are using. Ladies and gentlemen, we probably only got a few minutes left because we tried to got.
Yeah, you got 4 minutes. You got 4 minutes.
Very, very kindly allowed us to do this tonight. So I'd like to thank Wake Up UK.
We get cut off. We get cut off just
like
at
to give you
18:45. We get cut, so we got 3 minutes
problem.
left.
Well,
we just like to give you some little updates on Saturday. So listen, we're not running a show. There's various groups we believe are all going to be in London on Saturday the 24th. Hopefully they will all come together because every one of those people that turns up in London has got the same got the same remit. We want to see our children's futures. Basically, our children have the same rights to grow up, the same rights that we took for granted, and those same rights that our forefathers were prepared to give their lives for. And that's what we're I don't want to use the word fight because some people will try and spin it around, but that is our common goal, that all of those people that turn up on Saturday, we're there for our rights, but also for our children's rights and generations to come. So please turn up on Saturday. Please support it because your children are worth it. Yeah, because this is the future for our children. If you don't, they won't know what freedom of speech is, freedom of movement, freedom of choice.
Nope.
These things are all important. So please, hopefully we'll see you all Saturday. We will be at Speaker's Corner at 1 o'clock. And hopefully we will be joined by lots of nurses, lots of doctors and lots of veterans and the public, the great British public.
Totally.
So come and join us. I'd like to thank Mick Stott for coming on tonight. I'd also like to thank Dr. Zach Cox. Thank you both for joining us. I look forward to seeing you both Saturday and perhaps having a couple of beers afterwards. That'd make a nice change, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, that would be good.
Okay. So see you all
Shandy
Saturday,
for me, though, as a
the old Southern Shandy swills. It'll be Shandy, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the top on yours. Yeah. Okay. Listen, everyone. Hope to see you all Saturday.
See you later,
Michael. If you saw the price, if you saw the price of beer down south, mate, you could be drinking Shandy too.
Let me tell you, we know it's more expensive than gravy.
That's why we don't have gravy with our pie and mash.
That's it.
Listen,
Okay, guys, love you. Leave, yeah.
Cheers.
Sorry, I didn't get to answer so many questions and that because we're only a short space of time. But tune in next Wednesday, and we'll be taking questions from the floor with the guests that we have on. So watch Wake Up UK and watch UKFA, UK Freedom Alliance, for notices of who the guests are, and you can leave your questions on either side if you've got premeditated questions. So let us know. Yeah. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Cheers, Michael. Cheers, everyone.
Take care.
Cheers, everyone.